All right. We want to make assets so that when you've got the course, you get you get the stuff you need, but also some extra things that you can have if you want that you can just drop into your own games. Or maybe you're making spooky bricks and you don't want a bat in it, you want a penguin. And we already have this, I guess, pantheon of characters, right? We have Tukey, the toucan. We have Avery and Annie Bunny, who made their appearance in Hoppy Days, although I hadn't called them that at the time.
Yeah.
We have Legit Penguin, who's a legit penguin, and Space Duck. We have Boris the Bat, and we have Low Polly the Parrot.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is, by the time we get to, let's say, Space Invadux, have different character packs where you could just swap them out. So if you want ducks, have ducks. If you'd rather have bunnies, have bunnies.
I mean, one of the things this has come from is we've had feedback that it can be a bit stale if everybody's using the same assets and creating the same sort of output at the end, and so, some people don't want to share their stuff because it's exactly the same as the last person.
Right.
If you're following along with the course, when we say can you share your work, we genuinely want to see what you're up to, because as distanced instructors, it's impossible to know how someone's getting on unless they're saying.
It's one of the hard... Okay, so I used to teach undergrads in the States, and it was really clear to see what was working and what wasn't, and you could change your teaching on the fly, because you'd walk in and you just count how many people are bored, right? It's really easy.
How many of them are asleep?
You can't do that in a video.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to hear that you guys are enjoying it and that you find us lovable rascals, etc. And we want to make it so that you've got all these tools. And if you want to make a game with a bunny, have Avery and Annie. There's character pack. So what that's going to mean is going through with Libra Sprite or A Sprite and making standardized sprite sheets, right? So it should be as simple as, I've got this sprite sheet. I want to change it for that one. I'll drop it in. Everything still works. I don't have to change a single line of code or a single node, right? However, to do that, we need to sit down and make them. So we need like idle, walk, the rest of it.
This is one of the things that we are very keen on, especially if we've got assets that are supposed to work together, that they do work together. I don't suppose
you've got Spooky Bricks or Space Invadux on this drive, have you? We didn't plan this in advance.
No, I did think I did down...
I should have kicked the cable.
That wouldn't have helped. What do I want? Downloads. Have I left it in my downloads? Otherwise, the answer's no.
Okay, fine. So the good news is these aren't particularly difficult to make once you've got the standard pattern down and you've got the basics done. Oh, Stooky Kickabout. Let's do Tukey Kickabout.
I mean, we can.
Yes. No. That's the wrong folder.
I'm a professional. Is this load it up in Godot?
Yeah.
Okay. So bear with us a moment.
Project.
There we go.
Quit to project list.
Save and quit. This is exciting TV.
It's great.
Oh, has it crashed? Has it crashed?
Maybe.
Hey!
This is exciting.
It's a crashed. It's a crashed. There we go. We've crashed it for the first time today.
Hunter. No. I'm going to be writing a GD script. I want to be very, very clear about this in advance. C, writing in C is a great skill. For the most part, you don't actually need to do it. Like, unless you're doing incredibly intensive AI stuff and things where you need that kind of raw processing power, GD script can handle it just fine. As for visual scripting, I'll be honest, I've never found a use case where I've wanted to use it. My problem with visual scripting is, in order to use visual scripting, you have to know the nodes and how the scripting language works, at which point it's faster to type it. I know the idea is you can just you just give it to someone who doesn't know code and they can do it, but that's not true. They have to know how to code. They just don't type it. They do it visually. So, no. Oh, visual scripting is gone. It's not in Godot 4. So, you're right. I forgot about that. That's another good reason not to do that. Let's say I did that one first. Thank you, Dustin.
So I'm not sure if this is going to have whether it's got music in it or not.
It does.
It does. So this might sound horrible, but let's switch over, and I'm going to press play. It's assuming it works, of course.
Give it a second.
So, prototype as always.
Oh, you've only got the one-player one.
Have I?
No, you haven't. You should have the full screen. What resolution are you using?
1080p. I'm gonna be low poly.
No, it's changed. Oh yeah, no, that's all changed since then.
Okay, so a great example here. Let's move back to our talking heads rather than the Crash Godot. This is actually one of the reasons why we've been waiting, because things have changed. This was only 2 months ago, I think, or something like that.
4 months ago, yeah.
But anyway, it just shows you how much has changed just in the short time that we had before, a long time ago. So what's that? Yeah. Oh, I've just opened it, so it's got a
today.
It's today. It's changed today.
I got it working on mine, but I did actually make some changes, so that's fair.
Yeah. That was back in September. Tell a lie, it wasn't a couple of months ago. It was a few. But yes, it is frustrating when stuff like that happens, which is why we've waited for now. And we've got so much energy now. Godot is actually in its release candidate stage. It basically means it's feature locked. They're not going to change their names of the functions that they've used, which is great. Real pain in the backside when they decide to do something like that. And it should mean that they're just squashing bugs now. Yeah, squish.
I wish they're very open. It still will be some. It won't be as smooth as 3.1 for a little while because it takes a while to get something that smooth. But yeah, that was the intro to Two Key Kickabout, where there's 2 players, and I wanted to make the whole thing feel very cartoony and has this wonderful stupid house soundtrack and a little tiny pitch and this ball, and it's very funny.
Yes.
Local multiplayer game.
It's a very simple game, and it's one that we came up with.
First time we met.
Yeah, we sat down, we game jammed. Basically, I made some quick football assets. You went on the coding side of things.
It came about with, how easy is it to get Blender stuff into Godot? Well, I've got this cube dude, right? 4 hours later, we had a game.
Yeah, and it was surprisingly enjoyable and bug-ridden, but the bugs were a lot of fun.
The bugs were great.
There was a bug. By the time you scored and the new game started and reset, you could rescore. So there was
a 1 second timer between scoring and the level reset, so you could actually see that you scored. But then people figured out that if you bounce the ball off the back of the net, you could keep doing it.
Infinite goals.
And that became the game, right? How many times can you score?
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
It was great. And that's about as far as we've got in the 3D stuff. Yes, hello Todd. We're in the same place.
Ah. We are.
I mean, look, there's a ton of great languages for game programming. There's a ton of great engines. I'm going to be focusing on GDScript, 1, because it's the out-of-the-box one for Godot, and 2, it's the one I'm most comfortable with, right? Yes, we could absolutely, we could just do raw Python if we wanted to. We could do Rust. We could do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see the general benefit for that. Now, there are people who prefer to write in the C languages, and that's cool.
Yeah.
It's not my area of expertise. It's of the 2, I'd rather just use the GDScript.
It is arguably easier to learn GDScript and Python because of the way that they're quite natural in their language that they use. If something is not in this dictionary, you can type in if this is not in, well, this is a keyword, but if object is not in dictionary, then it's very easy to write. It's very easy to talk about because you're not having to convert symbols and other things on screen.
I like not having
Syntax.
to deal with curly brackets. I like not having to manually import libraries, although extending is very similar.
Yeah. But of course, indentation can be just as confusing.
Right.
As...
To be honest, these are personal preferences.
Yeah.
They are not inherent qualities of goodness and badness. There are a ton of great ways to make games and a ton of great programs and languages and engines, and you should just use the ones you like best. I happen to like Godot best and GDScript best, so that's what I'm teaching.
I did hear about some rumors that visual scripting might be added at a later point. I've played quite a bit with visual scripting, both in Blueprints with Unreal Engine, and also with the original visual scripting that was in Godot. I personally thought the Godot implementation was rough around the edges, shall we say.
Well, it was put in by, from what I understand, and this is all third party or third hand knowledge. It was put in by some people who were very passionate about it, and then they moved on to other projects within the Godot thing, and it was never quite finished.
It did feel half baked. The bits that were there worked, but not everything was there, which made it very difficult to visually program. If then you had to hop back into code.
Either way, to go back into what Hunter just said, even if it's added in later, I'm not currently planning on teaching visual scripting.
Yeah.
Because I don't really see a good use case for it. It's always felt cleaner and faster to type it than it is to represent it visually. Now, that could change in the future. This is not a promise that I will never touch it. Yeah. This is currently it's not planned.
I mean, the same's true of materials in Blender. When the node system first came out, it was quite, because that is visual programming. If you've ever played with the shader editor, that is visual programming, and there was a time at which it would have been easier just to use the sliders on the side and just stick with the basic stuff. But then once it got more fully, when it was more full featured, and you started to learn, these actually work, and it actually affects both render engines. There were certain quirks about it, and now it's absolutely amazing, and perhaps something like that will come to Godot in the future with their visual scripting.
It absolutely could be, and I'm sure that there are people out there who only use visual scripting who can do amazing stuff that is better than what I can do. Again, this is not it's terrible, so I'm not touching it. It's I find it very hard to teach a thing I don't believe in, right? And teaching a programming language, and I guess visual scripting is a programming language, that I don't really see the point of, just feels like a bad teaching and a bad learning experience. So my current plan is no, this may change.
I mean, just to interject there, the visual scripting in Unreal, by the way, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Blueprints is
but they've got everything there. So specifically, I just wanted to jump and say it's not just visual scripting. That's it's the old Godot implementation was a bit
and even then, personally, I prefer to type it. But again, that's just me.
I suppose also GD script being easier to understand than something like C++ is, with all of its caveats and null pointers and all the other fun that you can have with it. Blueprints somewhat protects you from a lot of that.
Yes.
Whereas GD script being more straightforward,
because GD script isn't quite as close to the metal.
No.
It's you're not quite as close to the raw machine code. You're a few levels of abstraction away, so you don't have to worry about.
And a lot of the C++ carries over from real C++, but Unreal kind of have their own flavour of C++, so you have to learn Unreal's flavour of. And of course, it might have been compiled with an older version of C++ if you've learned something that's in, I don't know what the things are. I don't know, C++ 23, if that's out, I don't know. But that might not be available.
Too many curly brackets.
Yeah, too many curly brackets. I've had the same with Blender with Python. So Blender's quite up to date with Python at the moment. I'm just going to launch it really quick. And I believe they actually have 3 points. I'm just going to have a look. Come on. So they have scripting 3.10. And I think 3.11 is just about to come out, if I remember correctly. So in that aspect, if you're using Python, Blender's actually pretty much up to date.
Yep.
But if you find something new, then it won't work unless you recompile Blender with a new Python. I just wait for them to switch over. They're always up to date with that sort of thing. Now, if you want to know about that, I will just show you really quick. So when you start up a new blend file, you're often on the Layout tab at the top here. You just scroll along, or perhaps your resolution's low enough that you can see it. You've got the scripting workspace at the end, and we've got the Python console. It's this one here. So Shift F4. If you want to be super lazy, you can just move your cursor over here, Shift F4, and you can read out Python and just start coding in Python. Why not?
Yep. I actually had quite a lot of fun when I was visiting my girlfriend, playing with a Raspberry Pico and learning MicroPython to make a little toy for her kid, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, you should definitely learn any programming language that takes your fancy, including visual scripting.
And a lot of programming languages, it's transferable skills. There are some things that don't really exist in certain languages, but otherwise, once you've got one under your belt, it's relatively straightforward to hop over to a new language. There are certain rules that you can go through.
There's some syntax that can get annoying, like remembering that you have to put semicolons everywhere. Just you forget if you didn't grow up with it. But in general, yeah.